Your parents never talked much about what they actually ate during the Depression, did they? There's a reason for that. The meals that kept Canadian families alive during the dirty 30s weren't just humble. They were desperate, creative, and sometimes downright disgusting. Between 1929 and 1939, Canadian families ate things that would turn your stomach today, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. Hit that subscribe button now, because what we're about to reveal will shock you with just how far desperation pushed your parents' generation, and number 4 on this list is going to absolutely floor you. Starting at 20, dandelion salad wasn't trendy foraged food. It was what you ate when you couldn't afford lettuce. Families would send kids out to pick dandelion greens from yards, ditches, anywhere they grew. You'd wash them if you had water to spare, then dress them with hot bacon grease, vinegar, and a pinch of salt. The greens were bitter, tough, and gritty with dirt you couldn't quite wash out. The bacon grease was often rancid, saved from previous meals and reused until it turned. At 19, flour and water pancakes with no eggs, no milk, no baking powder, just flour, water, and hope they'd hold together. When families ran out of everything else, they'd mix flour with enough water to make thin batter, pour it onto a hot griddle, and flip it before it fell apart. No rise, no fluff, just flat gummy discs that tasted like paste. You'd eat them plain because there was no syrup, no butter, no jam. Number 18, potato peel soup was exactly what it sounds like. The peels you'd normally throw away, boiled in water with an onion if you were lucky. Nothing was wasted during the Depression. The peels went into a pot with water, maybe a bone from last week's chicken, and you'd boil it until the peels were soft. The result was thin, grayish liquid with floating potato skins that were tough and bitter. You'd fish out the peels, eat them first, then drink the water. At 17, the lard and sugar sandwich was a Depression-era dessert that makes your teeth hurt thinking about it. Take 2 slices of stale bread, spread them thick with lard, sprinkle sugar on top, and that was your treat. The lard would be room temperature, soft and greasy, mixing with the sugar into a gritty paste. Kids would eat these after school and consider themselves lucky because sugar meant it was special. Number 16, fried bologna with lard spread was a Prairie staple that stretched pennies until they screamed. Your grandparents would take the cheapest bologna, often the stuff starting to turn, fry it in lard until the edges curled, then slap it between bread spread with more lard. The lard came from rendering whatever fat scraps the butcher would give away. Kids would eat these cold in their lunch pails, the lard congealing into white paste. At 15, milk toast sounds innocent until you understand what Depression-era milk toast actually was. Take stale bread, toast it until hard and dry, break it into pieces in a bowl, then pour hot water over it. Not milk, water, because milk was too expensive. Add a tiny bit of sugar if you had it. The bread would turn to mush, a gray, pasty sludge you'd eat with a spoon. Number 14, fried dough with molasses was what passed for a meal when there was nothing else. You'd take flour, add water to make thick dough, pinch off pieces, and fry them in whatever fat you had. Then drizzle with molasses because molasses was cheap. The dough would be heavy and greasy, sitting in your stomach like a rock. The molasses was thick and bitter, the cheapest grade available. At 13, boiled wheat berries with lard was what prairie farmers ate when they had nothing left but seed grain. During the worst years, families would boil wheat berries, the whole grain kernels, meant for planting, until soft enough to chew. Then mix in lard for fat and calories. The wheat berries were tough and chewy, tasting like nothing. Eating your seed grain meant you might not have a crop next year, but if you didn't eat, you wouldn't live to see next year. Number 12, fried salt pork with cornmeal mush defined prairie poverty during the dirty 30s. Salt pork was the cheapest meat available, basically pure fat, with thin streaks of meat, preserved in so much salt it would burn your mouth. You'd fry it until the fat rendered out, then use that fat to fry cornmeal mush. The salt pork was so salty you'd need water after every bite. The cornmeal mush was bland and gritty. At 11, canned creamed corn heated and served over buttered toast was quick dinner when your mom was exhausted. She'd heat the creamed corn, butter some toast, and pour the corn over top. The toast would get soggy, the corn was sweet and thick. It was simple, cheap, and surprisingly filling, but eating it 3 times a week made you sick of the sight of it. Number 10. Ground pork formed around a stick, breaded and fried to look like a chicken drumstick. These were cafeteria favorites during lean times. The meat would be seasoned, formed around a wooden stick, breaded and fried. They weren't chicken, but they were cheaper, and holding them by the stick made you feel like you were eating something better than you were. At 9, boiled dinner was corned beef, cabbage, potatoes, carrots, and turnips, all boiled together until everything was soft. Your mom would put everything in a big pot and let it simmer for hours. The house would smell like cabbage. The corned beef would be salty and stringy, the vegetables mushy. You'd eat it with mustard, trying to mask the blandness. Number 8, Spam sliced thick and fried, topped with canned pineapple rings, served with rice. This was Depression-era Hawaiian cooking. Your mom would fry the Spam, top each slice with a pineapple ring, stick a cherry in the hole, and serve it over white rice. The combination of salty Spam and sweet pineapple was oddly edible, which is why families ate it weekly. At 7, cold sliced beef tongue on rye bread with mustard, packed in lunch pails or served at Sunday supper. Your mom would buy tongue from the butcher, boil it until tender, peel off the outer layer, and slice it thin. The texture was smooth, the flavor mild, but knowing you were eating tongue made it hard to swallow. Number 6, savory jello made with tomato juice or beef broth, with vegetables, hard-boiled eggs, or shrimp suspended inside. This was served at every church supper and holiday dinner. Your mom would make it in a mold, let it set overnight, then unmold it onto a platter. The aspic would be jiggly and translucent, tasting like cold, gelatinous soup. You'd take a slice to be polite, then hide it under your napkin. At 5, pork hocks boiled with cabbage and potatoes until the meat fell off the bone. Pork hocks were cheap because they were mostly bone and gristle. Your mom would boil them for hours, the kitchen filling with the smell of boiling pork and cabbage. The meat would be fatty and tough, the cabbage would be gray and mushy, but it was protein and calories. And here we are at number 4, the most shocking meal on this list, Gopher Stew, the meal that defined just how desperate the dirty 30s made Canadian families. During the worst drought years on the prairies, when crops failed completely and money disappeared, families ate Richardson's ground squirrels, called gophers. Kids would trap them, skin them, and bring them home for dinner. Your grandmother would boil the gophers whole in water, with whatever vegetables she could find, usually just potatoes and onions. The meat was dark, gamey, and tough, with a wild taste that no amount of salt could cover. The stew was thin and greasy, with bits of gopher meat floating in cloudy water. Some families ate gopher 2 or 3 times a week during the worst years. The government even paid a bounty on gopher tails to encourage killing them as pests. And families would collect the bounty, then eat the gophers. This wasn't food, it was survival. Your grandparents ate rodents to stay alive, and they did it without complaining, because complaining didn't change anything. After the Depression ended, most families never spoke about the gopher stews. The shame and trauma of that level of poverty was too deep to discuss. At 3, wild rabbit trapped and stewed with turnips and whatever vegetables were available. Rabbit was gamey and tough, especially the wild ones trapped in fields. Your grandfather would skin them. Your grandmother would stew them for hours with turnips, which were cheap and plentiful. The rabbit would be stringy, the turnips would be bitter, but it was meat, and meat was precious. Coming in at number 2, blood sausage made from pig's blood, fat, and oatmeal, stuffed into casings and fried. When families butchered a pig, nothing was wasted. The blood was collected, mixed with fat and oatmeal, stuffed into intestines, and made into sausages. The sausages would be dark, almost black, with a metallic taste from the blood. You'd fry them until crispy outside, but inside, they were soft and bloody. And here we are at number 1, head cheese, made from boiling a pig's head until the meat fell off, then setting it in gelatin made from the boiled bones. Your grandmother would take a pig's head, boil it for hours until the meat was soft, pick off every bit of meat including the tongue, cheeks, and brain, then mix it with the gelatinous liquid from boiling the bones. She'd pour it into a mold, let it set, and slice it cold. The result was a jellied loaf with visible chunks of meat, fat, and sometimes bits of bone. The texture was slippery and gelatinous. The flavor was porky and fatty, and knowing it came from a pig's head made it nearly impossible to eat. But families ate it because wasting food meant going hungry, and going hungry meant dying. There you have it, 20 disgusting meals that kept Canadian families alive during the dirty 30s. These weren't recipes passed down with pride. They were survival tactics that your parents' generation endured and then tried to forget. The next time you complain about dinner, remember that your grandparents ate Gopher Stew and Headcheese and were grateful to have them. The dirty 30s shaped an entire generation, teaching them that nothing should be wasted, that complaining was pointless, and that survival required eating things that would make you sick today. Did your parents or grandparents ever tell you what they ate during the Depression? Drop their stories in the comments below. And if this history lesson hit you hard, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. And remember, we live in abundance our grandparents couldn't imagine.